You now understand the ideas of population and sampling. Sampling serves as the foundation for data. How you collect data in this context is crucial because the success or failure of your research project relies completely on the data and how it is interpreted. Data is essential in research for making discoveries and ultimately applying those findings to society as a whole. Thus, as an undergraduate preparing to conduct research, it is important to have a solid understanding of data and the methods for collecting it. 2 learning outcomes of this session. One is that you can grasp how crucial the data collection method is in a research setting. The second one is that you can learn about various data collection methods that can be used in a research project. Data. Data is a primary form of information. Data becomes information through organization, context, and analysis. Unorganized facts and figures, data, acquire meaning when they are structured, categorized, and set within a relevant framework. This contextualization enables interpretation and understanding, turning the data into useful information for decision-making or gaining insights. In essence, information is processed into meaningful data. In a general way, data can be classified as primary data and secondary data. Primary data is the first-hand data collected by you accessing a sample or a situation. Secondary data is the second form of data that is already collected and recorded by the second party. Secondary data could be censuses, surveys, organizational records, previous research, extracted from books, journals, reports, newspapers, magazines, data archives, databases, etc. Data is to be generated using techniques. Data collection techniques are varied according to the nature of the data. Some data collection methods are simple, and some methods require more skills. However, in the context of data collection, there are different factors to be considered. First one is the purpose of the data. Understanding the purpose of data collection is paramount. It dictates the data types to gather, the methods employed, and the necessary level of accuracy. A clearly defined purpose ensures resources are focused, preventing collection of irrelevant or redundant data. It also informs data analysis, guiding the interpretation and application of findings. Without a clear purpose, data collection becomes aimless and yields limited actionable insights, wasting time and resources. The second factor is the context of gathering data. Understanding the context of data gathering is crucial for ensuring data quality and relevance. Context encompasses factors like the purpose of data collection, the target population, the environment in which data is collected, and any potential biases. Ignoring context can lead to inaccurate interpretations, flawed analyses, and ultimately, incorrect conclusions. Defining the context upfront allows for appropriate data collection methods, suitable data cleaning, and meaningful analysis, ultimately leading to actionable insights. The third factor is timeline. A timeline is crucial in collecting data as it provides a structured framework for understanding the sequence and timing of events. Establishing a clear timeline helps researchers identify patterns, trends, and causality in the data. It ensures that data is collected consistently over defined intervals, allowing for accurate comparisons and analyses. Additionally, a well-defined timeline can improve project management, guiding teams on deadlines and milestones, ultimately enhancing the validity and reliability of the findings. The next one is availability of skills. Data collection hinges on the availability of relevant skills. Researchers require proficiency in research design to select appropriate methodologies. Technical skills are crucial for operating equipment, handling software, and ensuring data accuracy. Interpersonal skills are vital for conducting interviews, surveys, and engaging with participants ethically. Finally, analytical skills are needed for data cleaning, preliminary analysis, and identifying potential biases. Lack of any of these skill sets can compromise data quality, leading to flawed conclusions and ineffective decision-making. Resource availability is another factor. Resource availability is crucial for effective data collection as it encompasses the tools, time, personnel, and financial support required for the process. Adequate resources ensure that data can be accurately gathered, analyzed, and interpreted. Furthermore, they facilitate the implementation of efficient methodologies, ultimately leading to more reliable and valid results. Without sufficient resources, data collection efforts may be compromised, leading to incomplete or biased information that can hinder decision-making and insights. Special thing in data collection is indicators and key questions of your research. Research objectives, questions, and variables are the main guideline to collect data. In the context of research, the data are categorized as qualitative data and quantitative data. This classification leads to generating a clear idea about the data and selecting the data collection methods. Qualitative data collection approach. Qualitative data leads to understanding the research problem and its roots deeply. As a qualitatively oriented researcher, you can get insight into the research problem, its nature, and different influences through the qualitative data. It also helps to look at the depth of understanding about the intangible facts like opinions, motivations, different behaviors of individuals, and descriptions of a process, event, or a particular context of your research project. Especially qualitative data illustrates the stories, experiences, and feelings of humans relating to your research area. It is a more open approach. Data can be gathered in informal, unstructured ways. It is a flexible method of data collection. Qualitative answers the question why or how. Qualitative research data primarily seeks to answer the question why by exploring the motivations, beliefs, and experiences of individuals. It delves into the nuances of human behavior and provides context to understand underlying reasons driving certain actions or attitudes. Qualitative research data primarily addresses the how by exploring the processes, experiences, and underlying motivations of individuals within specific contexts. Through methods such as interviews, focus groups, and observations, qualitative research captures rich, descriptive insights that reveal how people interpret their experiences, behaviors, and interactions. Therefore, this approach relies more heavily on interactive interviews, discussions, and deeper conversations. Qualitative research aims for in-depth understanding, not broad generalization. Its findings are context-specific, reflecting the experiences and perspectives of a particular group or setting. Sample sizes are typically small and purposefully selected, prioritizing richness of data over statistical representativeness. While findings may offer insights relevant to other populations, they cannot be directly applied or assumed to hold true across different contexts without further investigation. The quantitative approach uses numbers and statistics to quantify change and is often expressed in the form of digits, units, ratios, percentages, proportions, etc. Compared to the qualitative approach, the quantitative approach is more structured, straightforward and formal. How much and how many are the basic questions that are going to answer by the quantitative data. As examples, how many people attended the workshop or how often do people visit the health center? The answers lead to numerical form rather than the insight of the reasons or motives of the people. Quantitative research is useful for multi-site and cluster evaluations. Quantitative data usually involve a large group of respondents or sample population when compared with the qualitative research. This approach relies heavily on random sampling and structured data collection instruments that fit diverse experiences into predetermined response categories. Quantitative data, by its nature, involves numerical values and measurements. These values can be organized into a structured format like tables, spreadsheets, or databases. However, quantitative data can also exist in less structured forms, such as a list of individual measurements or values without a specific defined relationship. The key is that the data is numerical and lends itself to statistical analysis, regardless of whether it resides in a perfectly structured container. Quantitative methods focus on obtaining a general understanding rather than a deep insight into a specific context, providing clear results. This makes it simpler to gather and analyze quantitative data, reducing the likelihood of bias in interpreting the results. Results are numerical, objective, clear, and direct, making them simpler to summarize and generalize. They are helpful for comparing different sites or interventions. There are different dissimilarities between qualitative and quantitative data. First difference: qualitative data helps you understand issues deeply and notice subtle details, while quantitative data is beneficial for precision and provides results in numbers. Second difference: qualitative data is generally more informal, unstructured, or semi-structured, allowing for greater flexibility in data collection. In contrast, quantitative data is more structured and defined, offering less flexibility. The same questions are asked to all respondents. Third difference: qualitative data explores the questions of how and why, since it is investigative in nature, while quantitative data addresses the questions of how much, how many, or how often. Fourth difference: qualitative data targets a small, specific group of respondents selected purposefully for sampling, whereas quantitative data includes a larger group of respondents or sample populations that are chosen either randomly or with intention. Fifth difference: qualitative data emphasizes open-ended questions, with results mainly shown in text and lengthy reports. In contrast, quantitative data uses concise, closed-ended questions like yes/no or multiple choice. Results are displayed in numbers and graphs. Using both qualitative and quantitative data, you can grasp how these two methods work in research. Essentially, there are two types of research approaches based on their nature. One is the deductive approach, and the other is the inductive approach. In the deductive approach, researchers choose existing theories and create hypotheses from them. Then, they establish a systematic method or structured method for collecting data based on these hypotheses. This approach relies on quantitative data, and ultimately, the research results validate the pre-existing theory. The second method, known as the inductive approach, begins with observation or detailed interviews. From these observations or the results of the interviews, the researcher identifies patterns in the data set. Taking these patterns into account, the researcher formulates a theory based on existing literature. This picture illustrates the different kinds of data collection methods. Basically, there are two methods. One is primary data collection methods and other is the secondary data collection methods. In the context of primary data collection methods, there are mainly three approaches: observation, interview, questionnaire. Qualitative and quantitative nature of data is highly dependent of the way of gathering the data through observation, interview and questionnaire. If the data collection method is unstructured and open, the data will be the qualitative. If the data collection method is structured and closed, the data will be the quantitative. For example, you can observe a situations using structured way or unstructured way. Data collection method. First method is observation. Observation method of data collection is most popular method in the behavioral research and it collects first-hand data in its real nature. As a human, we always observing the surrounding and capture the things which are important to us intentionally or unintentionally. The thing in this observation is not always based on scientific manner. In a research, the researcher uses the observation method in scientific manner. Observation turns into a scientific tool and a way for researchers to collect data when it has a clear research purpose. Thus, careful planning and documentation are crucial in the research process. It undergoes checks and controls to ensure validity and reliability. Observation method of data collection need more skills because the data gathering and interpretation is highly done by the observer. Data collecting through the observation can be done on two ways. One is participating to the event or incident. Then, the researcher become a part of the event or the people. Second approach is the non-participation method. It is only observing the incidents without participating the researcher. The method of observation, whether participatory or not, depends on the type of data and the opportunities available to the researcher. Advantages of observation method. Directness. Observation offers first-hand data, capturing real-time behavior in natural settings. Researchers witness events as they unfold, reducing reliance on subjective accounts or interpretations. Naturalistic data. Observing individuals in their usual environments provides ecologically valid data, reflecting authentic behaviors often absent in controlled experiments. Depth and detail. Detailed descriptions of behaviors, interactions, and contextual factors are easily gathered, providing rich, nuanced insights into research phenomena. Suitability for certain subjects. Observation excels when studying subjects unable or unwilling to provide self-reports, such as children, animals, or individuals with cognitive impairments. Identification of unconscious behaviors. Researchers can identify patterns and behaviors that participants are unaware of or unwilling to admit, revealing hidden dynamics. Drawbacks of the observation method. Observer bias. The biases, expectations, or preconceived notions of the researcher can affect how they interpret and record what they see, which can compromise objectivity. Hawthorne effect. When participants know they are being watched, they might change their behavior, resulting in data that is not genuine or representative. Time-consuming and labor-intensive. Collecting, recording, and analyzing data through observation takes a lot of time and resources, making it a challenging research method. Difficulty in replicating. Because natural settings are uncontrolled, it can be hard to replicate observational studies, which limits how widely the findings can be applied. Ethical considerations. It can be tough to obtain informed consent and protect privacy, especially in covert studies where participants do not know they are being observed. Limited generalizability. Results from specific observational contexts may not apply to larger populations or different situations, which decreases external validity. Interview method as data collection. The interview technique for gathering data includes presenting spoken prompts and receiving spoken answers. There are two types of interviews. One is personal interview and other is telephone interview. Personal interview method requires a person known as the interviewer asking questions generally in a face-to-face contact to the other person or persons. This face-to-face approach facilitates in-depth exploration of the interviewee's perspectives, experiences, and opinions. Advantages. Rich data allows for nuanced understanding and discovery of unexpected insights through nonverbal cues and follow-up questions. Flexibility enables adaptation of questions based on the interviewee's responses, exploring relevant tangents. Rapport building fosters trust and encourages honest, open communication, especially for sensitive topics. High response rate generally achieves a higher completion rate compared to surveys. Disadvantages. Time-consuming and costly, requires significant time for interview preparation, execution, and transcription. Interviewer bias, subjectivity can influence question phrasing or interpretation of responses. Small sample sizes, limits the generalizability of findings to a larger population. Potential for social desirability bias, interviewees may provide answers they perceive as more socially acceptable. Telephone interviews, this method of collecting information consists in contacting respondents on telephone itself. They bridge the gap between impersonal surveys and resource-intensive face-to-face interviews, providing a cost-effective and relatively quick way to collect information. Advantages. Cost-effective, lower costs compared to in-person interviews due to reduced travel and administrative expenses. Time-efficient, data collection is faster than face-to-face or mail surveys, allowing for quicker turnaround times. Accessibility, reaches geographically dispersed respondents, including those in remote areas. Anonymity, can provide a degree of anonymity, potentially encouraging more honest responses, especially on sensitive topics. Higher response rates, typically yield higher response rates than mail or online surveys, as the interviewer can address concerns and encourage participation. Disadvantages: limited depth. Difficult to explore complex issues in detail due to time constraints and lack of visual cues. Sampling bias. Reliance on phone directories may exclude individuals with unlisted numbers or those who primarily use mobile phones, if not addressed in the sampling strategy. Interviewer bias. Interviewer tone and phrasing can unintentionally influence respondent answers. Respondent burden. Interrupting respondents' daily routines can lead to annoyance and rushed responses. Visual aids limitations. Cannot utilize visual aids or demonstrate products effectively. Interview method. As data collection can be classified as structured interview and unstructured interview. Sometimes semi-structured interview can be used to data gathering. Structured interviews are a rigid, quantitative research method characterized by predefined questions asked in a standardized order. They minimize interviewer bias and ensure comparability across respondents. Key characteristics. Standardized questions. The interviewer adheres strictly to a predetermined questionnaire. All participants receive the same questions, phrased identically. Fixed order. The sequence of questions remains consistent for every interviewee. This ensures that earlier questions don't influence responses to later ones differentially. Limited probing. Follow-up questions or elaborations are typically discouraged. The focus is on obtaining direct answers to the planned questions. Closed-ended questions. Often, structured interviews utilize closed-ended questions, e.g. multiple choice, Likert scales, to facilitate quantitative analysis. Open-ended questions are less common. Advantages. High reliability. Due to the standardization, results are highly replicable. Different interviewers administering the same interview should obtain similar data. Reduced bias. Standardized wording and order minimize interviewer influence, reducing subjective bias in data collection. Easy data analysis. Quantitative data generated from structured interviews is readily amenable to statistical analysis. Efficiency. Structured interviews can be conducted relatively quickly and efficiently, especially when using closed-ended questions. Disadvantages. Limited flexibility. The rigid format restricts the interviewer's ability to explore emerging themes or probe for deeper understanding. Artificiality. The structured nature can feel unnatural or impersonal, potentially impacting respondent comfort and honesty. Superficiality. The focus on standardized responses can lead to superficial data, lacking the richness and nuance of qualitative methods. Potential for acquiescence bias. Respondents may tend to agree with statements, especially if they are unsure or uninformed. Unstructured interviews offer a flexible and exploratory approach to gathering information. Unlike structured interviews with predetermined questions, the unstructured format allows the conversation to evolve organically, driven by the interviewee's responses. Advantages. Rich, in-depth data. The free-flowing nature encourages interviewees to share detailed insights, perspectives, and experiences that might be missed in a rigid structure. Rapport building. The conversational style fosters trust and rapport, making interviewees feel more comfortable and willing to share openly. Flexibility and adaptability. The interviewer can adapt to unexpected information, exploring emerging themes and uncovering unanticipated insights. Exploratory research. Ideal for initial stages of research, hypothesis generation, and understanding complex phenomena where the researcher's understanding is limited. Disadvantages. Time-consuming. Unstructured interviews can be lengthy as interviewees have considerable leeway in their responses. Data analysis challenges. Analyzing qualitative data from unstructured interviews requires significant effort and specialized skills. Coding and thematic analysis can be complex and subjective. Interviewer bias. The interviewer's own biases and assumptions can inadvertently influence the direction of the conversation and the interpretation of responses. Reliability issues. Due to the lack of standardization, comparing responses across different interviewees can be difficult, potentially affecting the reliability of the findings. Questionnaire method. Questionnaire is the most popular method of data collection. A questionnaire consists of a number of questions printed or typed in a definite order on a form or set of forms. The questionnaire is sent to participants who should read and comprehend the questions, then write their answers in the designated space within the questionnaire. The participants must respond to the questions independently. The questionnaire is sent to respondents via mail or email. They are expected to read and comprehend the questions, then write their answers in the designated space provided in the questionnaire. Respondents must answer the questions independently. Structured questionnaires, characterized by predefined, often closed-ended questions like multiple choice, offer several advantages that make them efficient for data collection. Advantages: ease of administration and response. The fixed-choice format simplifies answering. Respondents select from provided options, reducing ambiguity and minimizing the cognitive effort required compared to open-ended questions. This leads to faster completion rates and increased participation. Data analysis efficiency. Standardized responses allow for straightforward coding and statistical analysis. Data can be easily quantified and processed using software, facilitating large-scale analysis and identifying trends. Reduced bias. Well-designed structured questionnaires minimize researcher bias in interpretation. The predetermined response options constrain the potential for subjective assessment during data analysis. Consistent question wording also reduces response variability due to differences in interpretation across respondents. Cost-effectiveness. The ease of administration and analysis contribute to cost-effectiveness. Data entry and processing are streamlined, requiring fewer resources compared to qualitative data analysis methods. Comparability. Structured questionnaires facilitate comparisons across respondents and groups. The standardized format ensures that all participants are answering the same questions in the same way, allowing for meaningful comparisons of responses. Disadvantages: limited depth. The closed-ended nature restricts respondents' ability to express nuanced opinions or provide detailed explanations. Important contextual information may be missed. Potential for response bias. Predefined options may not fully capture respondents' actual attitudes or experiences, leading to forced choices and potentially inaccurate results. Careful question design is crucial to mitigate this bias. In summary, structured questionnaires are valuable tools for collecting standardized data efficiently. While they offer advantages in terms of administration, analysis, and cost-effectiveness, it's important to be aware of their limitations and design them carefully to minimize potential biases and ensure data validity. Unstructured questionnaires. Unstructured questionnaires, characterized by open-ended questions, indeed function similarly to essay questions in research. They offer both advantages and disadvantages compared to structured questionnaires with closed-ended questions. Advantages of unstructured questionnaires. Rich and detailed data. Respondents can elaborate on their thoughts and feelings, offering insights that structured questionnaires might miss. This is valuable for exploratory research and understanding complex phenomena. Flexibility and spontaneity. Respondents are not constrained by predefined answer choices, allowing for unexpected and novel responses. Researchers can uncover new perspectives. Exploratory potential. Unstructured questionnaires can be used to generate hypotheses for further testing using quantitative methods. They help researchers understand the context and nuances of a topic. Respondent-driven insights. The answers are less influenced by researcher bias because the respondent has more control over the direction of the response. Disadvantages of unstructured questionnaires. Data analysis challenges. Analyzing qualitative data from unstructured questionnaires is time-consuming and requires specialized skills. Coding and thematic analysis are often used to identify patterns. Subjectivity in interpretation. Researchers' interpretations of the responses may be subjective, potentially introducing bias. Interrogator reliability measures are crucial to mitigate this. Difficulty in comparing responses. The varied nature of responses makes it difficult to compare data across participants. Standardized statistical analysis is generally not applicable. Potential for irrelevant information. Respondents may provide information that is not relevant to the research question, requiring researchers to sift through irrelevant data. Lower response rates. Unstructured questionnaires often have lower response rates than structured questionnaires because they require more effort from respondents. Literacy dependent. The effectiveness of these questionnaires relies heavily on the respondents' literacy skills, potentially excluding or disadvantaging certain populations. Secondary data collection. Secondary data in research methods refers to information or statistics that researchers have previously gathered from their primary sources. This data is easily accessible for others to use as they carry out their own primary research, helping them understand various processes that play a role in the research process. Thank you for listening to me.